Cells in Excel are denoted by an identifier that's made up of the column name, which in this case right now, I've got this number 6 here. This is going to be column I, so the columns run up to down. It's going to be row 3, and rows run left to right. So this cell itself is called I3. I can figure that out by looking at these column and row names, or I can go up here on the left, see this box over here. This box is going to show I3. If I click below, now I'm on I15, Q15, etc. So getting started with Excel, one of the very useful features that you'll use a lot is if you go to a cell and you see a value in it, and if you double click on that cell, it'll actually show you if there is a formula in there. And you see right here, I've got a formula in here, and it starts with an equal sign. And then it's got this N3, and see how the N3 is the color blue? A very great feature about Excel that I use all the time is the color coding nature of the formula. So right here I've got the N3. This denotes column N, row 3. So this is the number 7 over here, the minus sign, and then it's going to be N5. So I've got the column N, row 5. And see how row 5 here, N5 has a red box around it, and N3, the number 7, has a blue box around it, and then we've got these corresponding colors in our formula over here. So I can look at this box here and I can see N3 and N5, and I could just go over and try to triangulate on those cells, or I could just quickly look at the colors and I'll know which cells this formula is referring to. One other thing, when you double click on a box on a cell, is that up here you'll see this little bar up here is also showing this formula, and this is called the formula bar. Now I can even hit enter right now and see I'm go back to my output, and if I just single click on the cell, my output, the number 6, will still show, but my formula bar up here, which is currently connected to the cell that I'm clicked on, is showing the formula. So the cell that you're clicked on and the formula bar are linked. So make sure that you're keeping that in mind as you're building formulas. You might be doing some testing, troubleshooting, etc. Now, if I want to type in, say I wanted to add the numbers 7 and 1. Let's get started on doing that. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to delete all the information that's in cell I3 right now, which is showing the number 6. So I'm just going to hit delete on my keyboard. And now you see this, both the cell itself is blank and the formula bar is blank. So I know there's not even there's no formula in there that's giving me a blank output. There is just no formula. So getting started with building a formula, you're always going to start a formula with the equal sign. So when you start typing into a cell to build the formula, you've got a couple options. You can actually use the formula bar itself to type in. So I'm clicked on this formula bar up here right now. If I hit enter, and then let's just put a few J's here just for demonstration purposes, and you can see that my cell is also showing that same output. So the formula bar is always only going to show you the formula. The cell's going to show you the formula as you're building it, but the output once you hit enter and you're out of the cell. I like to build my formulas in the cells themselves directly typically. So I'm going to take my mouse and I'm going to click back into the cell itself. And so see how my cursor is now to the right of the last J, and I'm just going to go backspace, and delete these J's that are in there. And now I'm left with just my formula. And what do I want to do? I want to add 7 plus 1. So let's just go and pretend that we're just using a regular old calculator. Just hit the number 7, and then plus, and then 1. And now I'm going to hit enter, and I've got the number 8. Now if I remove this formula bar, let's just see what happens here. So now I've got the 7 plus 1. Excel doesn't know that you want to add things together because you didn't start it with the formula. So if I click back in the cell, I'm going to go back up to the formula bar, put the enter sign, or excuse me, the equal sign where it goes. Now I'm going to hit enter again, and I've got the number 8. But this isn't just a regular old calculator. This is Excel. So the nifty feature about Excel is it's got two components to it. You can both type in using text, just using your regular old keyboard, and type in all the formulas that you want to get the outputs that you need ultimately. Or you can also use your mouse and start clicking around and selecting values that are available elsewhere on the spreadsheet. So instead of using just the number 7 and the number 1, I'm gonna delete this cell. I'm gonna start over again. Let's start with my equal sign, and I've got a 7 and a 1 over here on this little box. So instead of typing in 7, I'm going to click on the number 7 and see now what happens here is in my little cell, I've got a blue N3 showing up. What is that denoting? That is denoting that I clicked on column N, row 3, and see how the number 7 now has this blue box around it. So not only is it selecting the formula for you, it's displaying to you visually which cell this formula is referring to. The next thing I want to do is, because I want to add the number 1 to it, is I'm going to need to input the plus sign. And now, so I use my keyboard to do that. Now I'm going to go click over on the number 1. And so see how now the N5 is red? This is cell N5, and it is also highlighted red. So you've got both, just the textual identifiers of the cells, but you've also got color codes. I use the color codes all the time. They're very useful for, figuring out where a formula is referencing if you got a bunch of complicated stuff going on. Now I'm just going to hit enter, and now I get the number 8 again. And if I click back in my cell and I look up to the formula bar, I can see this formula I just entered, but I'm seeing the output in the cell. Now, why would I want to, be clicking on these cells to build my formula instead of just typing in 7 plus 1? Well, let's just say this 7, for some reason, you wanted to add 8 plus 1, or this 7 on your spreadsheet was going to be changed to a 10. So I'm going to change it to a 10. So if I change cell 10-3 from a hard-coded 7 to a hard-coded 10, and I hit enter, what happens? My formula also updates. This is going to be the sort of whole crux to building powerful formulas in Excel and using Excel in dynamic ways where you can build formulas that aren't hard-coded in, meaning you don't type in 7 plus 1. You reference the cell that contains 7 and the cell that contains 1, and you add them together. And then if that cell that contains 7, if it ever gets updated for some reason, your formula also automatically updates. And it saves you the trouble of having to manually redo your calculations all over again, because Excel's going to do it for you. Thanks for listening. My name is John. I'm the founder of JWH Consulting. I've been working with Excel for well over 10 years. You can find more about me and my company at lesstalkmoredata.com. God bless.